Hello, welcome to another video. Today I'm gonna be talking about my November wrap up, so essentially the books that I read in the month of November. Before I dive into the actual wrap up, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel recently and to everyone who's commenting on the videos. Those comments really mean a lot to me and they truly make my day. And also thank you for subscribing. I can't believe I've reached 100 subscribers. I know it sounds like a small number compared to some other giant booktubers, but I'm a new baby booktuber, so like 100 is a lot for me. So yeah, I just want to say a very big thank you before I dived into the video. So in no particular order, one of the books that I read this month is The Beauty Myth by Naomi Wolf. I don't know if you can see that quite well. There you go, that's a bit better. The lighting isn't great because the weather is like super gloomy and my phone exposure can only do so much, so bear with me people, because I think it's gonna be gloomy until the end of the winter. So like there's no way to avoid this. There's not much sun happening here. So yeah, The Beauty Myth. I gave this one 4 stars. This is like a non-fiction book about essentially the beauty myth, but what the author calls the beauty myth is like our modern beauty standards, mostly for women. There's like a tiny section about men as well, but it mainly refers to women. It was very interesting. Like you can see that I've been reading more feminist nonfiction lately, and this was the pick for the second month of my feminist society's book club thingy, and of course I read it. I accidentally ordered the abridged edition. I didn't realize, and it's like a really small book, but I don't mind as soon as I get like the essence of the whole thing. Essentially, this like talks about how the beauty standards that have been created today or like in modern society are essentially a political and economical strategy to, what's the word? I want to say like undermine, but that's like not exactly it, but essentially to put women in a disadvantaged position, because obviously beauty standards make us insecure, and when you're insecure you're only thinking about your insecurities and you don't step away from them and think about what else you can do, as in like career or just something bigger, you know? It talks about all of this stuff. It was quite interesting. Like I had no idea about so many of these things, and I think it is definitely worth a read. And I do recommend the abridged edition because I started like the normal edition on Libby, the library app. I'm sure everyone's heard about it. If not, go check it out. So I started the normal edition there and I could not get into it for the life in me, so I decided to order the book so I can have it physically, and accidentally ordered the abridged, and it worked. I read it. It was great. Yeah, 4 stars. Another book that I read in November is another feminist fiction, not fiction, non-fiction, is another feminist non-fiction I have been mentioning quite a while, and I've put on a couple of TBRs because I could not force myself to continue for some reason. I think I just wasn't really in the mood. But that book is Attack of the 50-Foot Women: How Gender Equality Can Save the World by Catherine Mayer. So I finally managed to read this. Like, yes, I am so proud of myself for reading this book. This was not an easy book to get through. Like, it's not that it's like badly written, but it's like non-fiction, and my brain cannot process that at a high speed or at the same speed that it processes like fiction. So it took me quite a while to read because I started it in July, and then like I read from it for the next couple of months, and then I stopped and put it down for a while, and then I picked it back up last month and finally finished it. I read the other half in like 1 month, so I did it. I gave this one 5 stars, even though it was like a whole adventure to go through. What this book is, it is essentially written by the co-creator of the women's Equality Party, that is like a political party here in the United Kingdom. She has written this book and it speaks about Equalia, which is this country, obviously a utopian country because it doesn't exist, but how this country would be like the perfect example of gender equality, how it would be the ideal place for and gender equality. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but essentially, yeah. And she starts by explaining how there's gender inequality in different topics like economy, work, social life, all that stuff. And it does talk about a lot of political things as well. And I'm not that much educated regarding politics, if that makes any sense. Like, I fairly recently started getting into politics because I hated them as a child for some reason and I wanted to avoid them at any cost, but they're essentially unavoidable because you cannot avoid them. They're very important, but that's a whole other topic. That's why it was also like hard for me to trudge through this, and this is a lot of information, like a lot of information. So it was quite something. Also, it is very similar to the other book that I read, Invisible Women. The only difference is that that one is more like facts based, but this is a bit more like personal. I mean, not really, but it feels a bit more personal, and there's isn't like a 50 pages of references, though they do refer to a lot of the same statistics. This one just doesn't have like the actual sources of the statistics, if that makes any sense. And since these last two books were like the last feminist nonfiction on my shelves, hopefully I can get into some of the other nonfiction books and like read some about some other topics and hopefully expand from there in the future. So overall, glad I read this, no regrets. I will definitely be reading more feminist nonfiction in the future because it is a topic that interests me very much. Hi, this is me from the next day because I forgot to mention one book I read and I don't get how that happens because it was right there on the list and I read the list before the video, but I just completely forgot to talk about it. Another book that I read in November, I don't have a physical copy because I read it as an ebook, so I'm just gonna insert a picture, but that is Majesty by Catherine McGee. This is the sequel to American Royals, and I gave it 3 stars. I gotta say it's a pretty solid conclusion to the duology, and I'm not mad that I read it, but I don't think I gained anything from it. It reads a little bit YA for my taste. I think it's a bit too over dramatic, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just like a bunch of royals whining about their love lives, which sounds ridiculous to me because like I can't help but think that there are people who have much more serious problems, and reading this just, yeah, I don't know. But anyhow, I'm gonna explain what the first book is essentially about. We follow the descendants of George Washington, and he didn't become president when he did. He became the first king of America. So yeah, we follow his descendants who are royals now. And there's a lot of drama. There's like some revenge, some friendship issues, some love life issues, a lot of love life issues, a lot of luxury and balls and paparazzi and all of that stuff. So if that's something you're into, then by all means go for it. I think this is perfect for some people that enjoy these types of stuff, but this is just it wasn't really for me. Even though I gave it 3 stars, I think I gave 3 stars to both of the books. I can realize that they're not bad, it's just like not for me. Yeah, I mean, they don't deserve a lower rating because they're not bad books, but my enjoyment of them was just okay. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the ending of the second book and the conclusion to the duology, so I'm gonna just like put a spoiler here while I talk about that so you don't get spoiled for the ending if you don't really want to. So the ending, yeah, I liked how it concluded. I genuinely liked the last couple of chapters because essentially we follow these like three girls and their main focus is to be with their crush, and like the only thing they strive towards and think about is the love life. So I like how at the end they are all left independent and by themselves, but in a strong and confident way, if that makes any sense. So like it ends on a note that women don't really need men to be successful. So at least that's what I got from the ending, and I thought that that is kind of a cool message because that doesn't really happen that often. So it was a good ending. I mean, it was a happy ending for everybody, and it was a realistic ending, which I really appreciated. That's spoiler ended. That's all I have to say about the book. Yeah, now back to yesterday's Aria and back to the other books that I've read in the month of November. One other book I read in November is Frankenstein by Marie, not sure which, Shelley. So everyone knows Frankenstein. It is a classic. A lot of people study it. That is the glare from the lamp because there's lack of light. Oh well. I enjoyed this so much more than I thought I would, and I gave it 4 stars. Like me giving a 4 stars to a classic. What, who, where? Yeah, so unexpectedly this took second place of my favorite classic ever. The first place I think will always be To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, I haven't read that many classics, but this one takes the second cake. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Frankenstein's about, but if you don't know, there's essentially this scientist called Victor Frankenstein, and he tries to reanimate a body, not exactly a body. He essentially like puts together all these body pieces and creates another creature, being, whatever. And since it's not alive, obviously, because it's been made out of dead people's body parts, yeah, he tries to reanimate it and he succeeds, and then he regrets his life choices. And then we follow all of that. Well, everyone knows what this is about. This is like horror, classic horror. Speaking of classic horrors, you know how like Frankenstein and Dracula by Bram Stoker always goes hand in hand, and like they're both considered to be the greatest classic horrors, or like whatever. I don't know, for some reason they always like go together. Well, I have to say Dracula pales in comparison to this. Dracula is like, no, I'm sorry if you really like that book, but I don't think I've ever been that bored in my entire life. So that's the tea for today. Yeah, Dracula, not really. Frankenstein, heck to the yes. Now, the reason why I loved this book so much is, well, there's a couple of things. I really liked the writing style. I do really like this like Victorian-esque type of conversation, if that makes any sense, but this doesn't really take place in England, where it does for like a little bit of the book, but it mostly takes place in, if I'm not mistaken, Germany and like Geneva, which is where Frankenstein is from. But yeah, I really liked that the conversations, the way it's written, really loved that. I really liked the atmosphere in the entire book. There's a lot of grim descriptions that give you like a gothic, eerie atmosphere kind of, but at the same time there are a lot of like nature descriptions. So I do love nature. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, but I'm a sucker for nature, so I really enjoyed all of those like nature descriptions. And the last thing that really left an impression on me is like how the characters describe their own feelings. Well, the story is narrated by Frankenstein for a little bit, and then it's also narrated from his monster's point of view for a part of the book as well. So like you see both of their feelings, how they feel and how they see the world, and that was very interesting. And they're both so miserable. Like I can't even put it into words. I think I lack the adjectives to explain their misery and how like they don't want to live anymore. and all of that makes you feel miserable. Like I was miserable for the entirety of this book because like the feelings were just so present, and like you really got under their skin as a character and you felt what they felt because it was described in such an intense way. Yeah, all of that put together is what made me give this a 4 stars. And I also want to mention that I listened to this on audiobook and it wasn't great, like it was not a 5-star book, but it was pretty good. I mean, it did the job because I tend to go with audiobooks for classics because it's easier for me to get through them that way. If you were thinking to pick this up, I strongly recommend because this is pretty good. It does deserve the hype of a classic. The next book is a very exciting book, and that is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. I read this, give it 3.5 for the sole reason that it is slow. Like, I have a feeling that all of the next books in the series are gonna be slow as heck because they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't know, I think it just like maybe comes with the package of being a big book. This is the 3rd book in the series. I don't really have much to say about the book. Like, it was good. The first half was like atrociously slow, but the second half was really, really good. I really like Rowan. Love Rowan. Oh my god. Very big fan of Rowan. And essentially nothing more to say. I mean, I do enjoy the story. Planning on continuing. Solid book. Solid continuation. Bit too slow for my taste, but I feel like it has like the sequel syndrome or whatever you call that, because there's not too much happening in the story. It's like a filler of sorts, to be honest. Like, for the amount of pages that this book has, not that much happens, to be honest. I'm sorry I can't give more thoughts. And that was essentially it for the books that I finished in the month of November. But I also have 2 books to talk about, which are the books that I started but did not manage to finish. And one of those is the sequel to the previous book that I was talking about, and that is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. I did manage to get very far into this. I only read like 50 pages, and I kind of put it down because I realized I wouldn't manage to finish this by the end of the month, so I picked up something a little bit shorter and I thought I would finish it, but alas I didn't, and that will be the next book I will talk about. But as for Queen of Shadows, the story picks up exactly where the previous one left off, and it seems to be going at a faster pace, and I'm honestly very excited to like see what's gonna happen in this book. I'm hoping for more action and more development in the story and the plot. But yeah, I will get to my actual review when I read more from this book and hopefully finish it. I really need to finish this book by the end of the year. Hopefully that happens. Fingers crossed. And the book that I abandoned Queen of Shadows for is The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare. I have been mentioning this book a lot lately because I've been meaning to read it, and I finally started it, but dumb me did not manage to finish it by the end of the month because I don't know, it's things, procrastination. But hoping to finish it in the next couple of days so I can finally pick back up Queen of Shadows. This book is the second in the Eldest Curses series by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu, and in here we follow Magnus and Alec and a lot more of the characters from our original Mortal Instruments series. I'm not gonna say much because this is spoilers. Essentially, Magnus gets into a lot of trouble and he and the gang have to go to Shanghai to look for some warlocks and this spell book, and there's a lot of demon stuff, and it is quite interesting so far, but I feel like this is a bit underwhelming for some reason. I'm a bit underwhelmed. I'm hoping this will pick up a bit more speed later in the book, but I mean, so far it's going great. And of course, these 2 books will be carried onto my TBR for the month of December. By the time you're watching this, I would have already posted my December TBR, hopefully. So I forgot to include these 2 on there for some reason. Well, I actually do know the reason. The reason is I never plan for these things. I go completely unprepared into a video, if you must know, because that's just how I work. I just like wing it, you know? So yeah, these two are included in there as well, which makes it a very, very, very ambitious TBR. And I will try and link it up in the cards if I can and do not forget, hopefully. And yeah, this was it for my November wrap up. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I know I have rambled a lot. I don't know what the hell I talked about for 30 minutes, but yes, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, hopefully soon.